The alien ship hung in space like a giant crystal. Its smooth walls caught the light from nearby stars and threw it back in rainbow colors. Commander Zenth stood on the bridge of the Quantum Seeker and looked at the small human vessel floating nearby. The human ship looked crude and simple compared to his advanced Valari technology. "Sir, the humans are ready to come aboard," said his second officer, Crix. The young Valari officer's blue skin had a slight glow of excitement. This was only his third contact with a new species. Zenth nodded slowly. He had done this many times before. Over his long career, he had met dozens of primitive races. They all followed the same pattern. First came wonder at Valari technology. Then came begging for advanced knowledge. Finally came disappointment when they learned how far behind they truly were. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. 3 humans floated through the airlock wearing bulky white suits. Their movements were clumsy compared to the graceful Valari. Zenth watched them through the security cameras as they removed their helmets. The first human was a woman with short, brown hair. She carried several devices that looked like simple recording equipment. The second was a tall man with tools hanging from his belt. The third wore the uniform of what appeared to be a military commander. "Welcome to the Quantum Seeker," Zenth said as he entered the docking bay. He had learned the human language from their transmissions. "I am Commander Zenth of the Valari Empire." The woman stepped forward and smiled. "Thank you, Commander. I'm Dr. Kate Morrison, xenobiologist for Earth. This is Engineer John Bradley and Captain Alex Turner." Zenth studied their faces. The woman's eyes moved quickly, taking in every detail of the docking bay. The engineer seemed fascinated by the energy conduits running along the walls. The captain maintained a respectful but alert posture. "Your ship is amazing," Dr. Morrison said. "We have never seen technology like this. How do you travel between stars so quickly?" Zenth felt a familiar sense of superiority. "We use warp drive technology. It allows us to bend space itself and travel faster than light. Your species uses chemical rockets, correct?" "Yes," Captain Turner replied. "Our fastest ships can barely reach the edge of our solar system. It takes months to travel between planets." The engineer, Bradley, was staring at a power coupling near the ceiling. "How much energy does your ship generate? The power requirements must be enormous." "More than your entire planet produces," Zenth said with pride. "Our fusion reactors create controlled stars. We harvest energy from the fabric of space itself." "Doctor?" Morrison pulled out a small device and began taking readings. "Would it be possible to learn more about your technology? For scientific purposes, of course. We understand we could never build such things ourselves." Zenth exchanged a look with Crix. The humans were following the expected pattern perfectly. Curiosity, admiration, and acceptance of their limitations. "Perhaps," Zenth said. "We believe in sharing knowledge with peaceful species, though I must warn you, our technology might be difficult for your people to understand." "We would be honored to learn what we can," Dr. Morrison said. Zenth led the humans through the ship's corridors. The walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from the material itself. Gravity maintained itself without any visible generators. The air recycled through systems that worked silently and perfectly. The humans made appropriate sounds of wonder as they walked. Bradley asked basic questions about the ship's construction. Dr. Morrison took careful notes on her primitive devices. Captain Turner remained quiet but observant. They reached the engine room, a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures that hummed with power. At the center stood the warp core, a beautiful arrangement of glowing crystals that pulsed with contained energy. "This is the heart of our ship," Zenth explained. "The warp core manipulates spacetime through harmonic resonance. These crystals can only be found in our home system. They took our scientists over 1,000 years to understand." Bradley stepped closer, his eyes wide with amazement. "How does it work exactly?" "The crystals vibrate at specific frequencies," Zenth said, enjoying the role of teacher. "This creates ripples in space itself. We ride these ripples like waves on an ocean. The mathematics involved are quite complex." Dr. Morrison held up her scanner. "May I take some readings?" Nothing that would reveal your secrets, just basic energy, measurements. Zenth nodded. The human device was so primitive it could not possibly understand Valari technology. He watched as Morrison moved around the warp core, her scanner beeping softly. The power output is incredible, she said, and the energy patterns are so stable. Your engineers must be brilliant. They are among the finest in the galaxy, Zenth agreed. It takes decades of study to even begin understanding warp theory. Bradley was examining the support structures around the core. What materials are these made from? They must be incredibly strong to contain such energies. A metal we call viridium, Zenth replied. It exists in a quantum state that makes it nearly indestructible. We mine it from the hearts of dead stars. The tour continued for 2 hours. The humans asked simple questions and marveled at every display of Valari technology. They examined the gravity generators, the energy weapons, and the long-range sensors, with appropriate wonder. As they prepared to return to their ship, Dr. Morrison approached Zenth. Commander, this has been the most amazing day of our lives. Would it be possible to establish a longer exchange? We have so much to learn. Zenth considered the request. The humans seemed harmless and genuinely curious. They could provide useful information about their region of space. Most importantly, they clearly recognized Valari superiority. I believe that would be beneficial for both our species, he said. Perhaps your ship could accompany us on our next mission. We are planning to study a nearby nebula. Captain Turner's face lit up. That would be an incredible honor, Commander. Excellent. We depart in 3 days. This will give you time to prepare your primitive sensors for the journey. As the humans returned to their ship, Zenth felt satisfied. Another primitive species properly introduced to Valari superiority. Soon they would join the many other races that looked to the Valari Empire for guidance and protection. He did not notice the small smile that passed between the 3 humans as they entered their airlock. Nor did he see the tiny devices they had placed throughout his ship during the tour. The Valari sensors, advanced as they were, could not detect technology they did not know existed. The first phase of humanity's plan was complete. 3 days passed quickly aboard the Valari ship. The humans spent their time asking questions and learning about alien culture. Dr. Morrison studied Valari biology while Engineer Bradley examined their tools and machines. Captain Turner discussed military tactics with the Valari officers. To Commander Zenth, everything seemed normal. The humans behaved exactly like every other primitive species he had encountered. They were curious, but clearly out of their depth when it came to advanced technology. On the morning of departure, Zenth called the humans to the bridge. Through the main viewer, they could see the swirling colors of the Helix Nebula in the distance. That is our destination, Zenth explained. The nebula contains rare gases that we wish to study. The journey will take 6 hours through warp space. Doctor, Morrison looked excited. Will we be able to observe the warp jump? This would be invaluable for our understanding of faster-than-light travel. Of course, Zenth replied, though I should warn you that your sensors will likely be overwhelmed by the energy involved. Warp travel creates forces beyond your current technology. Captain Turner nodded seriously. We understand our limitations, Commander. We're just grateful for the opportunity to learn. Bradley stepped forward carrying a metal case. Dr. Morrison has prepared some monitoring equipment. Nothing fancy, just basic energy readers and gravitational sensors. Would it be possible to install them near your warp core? It would help us understand what we're experiencing. Zenth looked at the case with amusement. Whatever primitive instruments the humans had built could not possibly interfere with Valari technology. If anything, watching their crude devices fail might provide an educational moment. Very well, he said. You may install your equipment, but please be careful not to damage anything. In the engine room, Bradley opened his case and removed several small devices. They looked simple and blocky compared to the elegant Valari instruments. He attached them to the walls around the warp core with basic magnetic clamps. These will measure energy fluctuations and dimensional stress, he explained to the watching Valari engineers. Probably too primitive to detect much, but we have to try. The Valari engineers smiled politely. One of them, a female named Sira, patted Bradley on the shoulder. Your enthusiasm is admirable. Perhaps someday your people will understand such things. Dr. Morrison connected her own scanner to the ship's power grid. Just basic current monitoring, she said. We want to see how power flows through your systems during warp travel. What the Valari could not see was the true nature of the human equipment. Hidden inside the crude outer shells were quantum processors more advanced than anything in Valari technology. The devices were already mapping every energy pattern in the warp core and transmitting the data through subspace to the human ship. The magnetic clamps contained molecular scanners that were analyzing the composition of the viridium support structures. Dr. Morrison's power monitor was actually a dimensional phase detector capable of measuring space-time distortions down to the quantum level. Back on the human ship Pioneer, the real work was beginning. The bridge looked small and simple from the outside, but hidden panels revealed banks of advanced computers. The crew wore their primitive-looking uniforms, but their equipment was anything but crude. Lieutenant Nancy Brooks monitored the incoming data from the Valari ship. Her console showed detailed readings of the alien warp drive that would have shocked Commander Zenth. Energy patterns are consistent with theoretical models, she reported to Captain Turner over their hidden communication system. The harmonic frequencies match our predictions perfectly. Excellent, Turner replied from the Valari bridge. Continue recording everything. This information is priceless. Dr. Morrison was asking Syra about the warp core's startup sequence. How long does it take to charge the crystals? Do you have to warm up the system gradually? About 10 minutes for full power, Syra explained. We start with low-frequency harmonics and build up slowly. Too much energy too fast can crack the crystals. Morrison nodded and took notes on her tablet. What she was actually doing was comparing Valari startup procedures with human methods. The humans had learned to bring their warp cores online in less than 2 minutes using quantum field manipulation. Bradley was examining the core's containment field generators. These must require constant adjustment during flight. The energy levels are so high. Actually, no, said another Valari engineer named Torx. Once properly calibrated, the system maintains itself. The crystals naturally find their optimal resonance frequency. This information was immediately transmitted to the Pioneer where it was analyzed and compared to human technology. The humans had always struggled with maintaining stable fields during warp travel. The Valari method could solve that problem entirely. Initiating warp sequence and announced the bridge over the ship's communication system. The warp core began to glow brighter. The crystals started their harmonic vibrations, creating a deep humming sound that filled the engine room. Space around. The ship began to bend and twist as reality itself was manipulated. Dr. Morrison watched her scanner with apparent fascination. The device showed energy readings climbing steadily as the warp field formed around the ship. What the Valari could not see was that her scanner was recording every quantum signature and mathematical constant used in the process. Amazing, she breathed. The power levels are beyond anything we imagined. Bradley's monitoring equipment was beeping rapidly as it detected the dimensional stresses of warp travel. Hidden circuits were mapping the exact geometry of the space-time, distortion and calculating the field equations needed to replicate it. The ship lurched slightly as it entered warp space. Through the viewports, normal stars disappeared and were replaced by the strange colors of faster-than-light travel. The nebula, which had been hours away, was now approaching rapidly. How fast are we going? Captain Turner asked over the communication system. Approximately 50 times the speed of light, Zenth replied proudly. We will reach the nebula in 6 hours instead of the 300 years it would take at light speed. The humans made appropriate sounds of amazement. Meanwhile, their hidden equipment was recording everything: the exact warp factor, the energy requirements, the field geometry, and the quantum mechanics involved in manipulating space-time. Back on the Pioneer, the data was being analyzed in real time. The human scientists were discovering that Valari technology, while advanced, used some inefficient methods. Human improvements could increase speed by at least 20% while using less energy. Fascinating, Dr. Morrison said, watching the energy patterns flow through her scanner. The harmonic resonance creates standing waves in the quantum field. We never thought of using that approach, Syra beamed with pride. It took our ancestors centuries to discover that technique. The mathematics alone require years of study to understand. What Syra did not know was that Dr. Morrison had helped develop similar mathematics 50 years ago, when humans first achieved warp travel. She was comparing Valari methods to human techniques and finding interesting differences. The journey continued smoothly. The humans asked more questions and marveled at the Valari ship's performance. They took detailed readings with their primitive equipment and expressed wonder at everything they observed. As they approached the nebula, Commander Zenth felt satisfied with his role as teacher. These humans were learning valuable lessons about their place in the galaxy. Soon they would understand how much they needed Valari guidance and protection. "Dropping out of warp," announced the navigator. The engine room filled with the sound of the warp core powering down. The crystals gradually stopped their harmonic vibrations. The space-time distortion collapsed and normal physics returned to the area around the ship. Through the viewports, the Helix Nebula spread before them in all its glory. Streams of glowing gas twisted through space in patterns that defied description. At the center, a white dwarf star provided the energy that made the entire structure shine. "Beautiful," Dr. Morrison said sincerely. "Thank you for allowing us to witness this." Zenth nodded graciously. Knowledge should be shared with those who can appreciate it. What he did not realize was that the humans had just recorded enough information to revolutionize their own warp drive technology. The 6-hour journey had provided Earth with centuries of Valari research and development. The second phase of humanity's plan was complete. Far from the Helix Nebula, in a hidden corner of space near Earth's solar system, Admiral Lisa Brooks stood in the command center of Deep Horizon Station. The massive facility was completely invisible to outside sensors, protected by advanced stealth technology that bent light and energy around its hull. "Admiral, we're receiving the data transmission from the Pioneer," reported Colonel Jack Davis. His fingers moved quickly over a control panel that would have amazed any alien observer with its sophistication. Brooks nodded as she watched streams of information flow across her screens. The Valari warp drive specifications, quantum field equations, and harmonic resonance patterns filled display after display. Everything humanity needed to understand their technology was being recorded and analyzed. "How does their system compare to ours?" she asked. Dr. Helen Carter, the woman who had first discovered humanity's path to faster-than-light travel, looked up from her analysis station. Her hair was gray now, 50 years after her breakthrough, but her mind was still sharp as ever. "Interesting, but inefficient," Carter said. "They rely too heavily on exotic materials and complex harmonic patterns. Our zero-point energy manipulation is much more elegant." Brooks smiled. The decision to hide humanity's true capabilities had been controversial at first. Many people had wanted to announce their achievement to the galaxy and take their place among the spacefaring civilizations. But cooler heads had prevailed. The galaxy was a dangerous place for young species. History was full of races that had revealed themselves too early and been conquered, enslaved, or wiped out by more established powers. Humanity had chosen a different path. "Status report on the colony worlds," Brooks requested. Lieutenant Commander, Amy Chen brought up a holographic display showing 17 star systems. Each one contained thriving human settlements, connected by a network of hidden warp routes that allowed rapid travel and communication. "All colonies are operating normally," Chen reported. "New Geneva reports successful completion of their orbital shipyards. The Tau Ceti colonies have finished their agricultural expansion, and the research station at Wolf 359 has made progress on quantum shielding technology." For 50 years, humanity had been spreading through nearby space while appearing to be stuck in their home system. They had built cities on distant worlds, established mining operations in asteroid fields, and created a network of hidden bases and research stations. The key to their success was careful planning and advanced technology. Human ships used warp drives that left no detectable signatures. Their colonies were built underground or in asteroid hollows, invisible to casual observation. Their communications used quantum entanglement that could not be intercepted or traced. "What?" About our intelligence gathering operations? Brooks asked. Major Paul Mason stepped forward with another report. We have observer teams monitoring 14 different alien civilizations. The Valari Empire is one of the most powerful, but they're not aggressive expansionists. The Zephyrian Republic is more concerning. They have a history of subjugating primitive worlds. Human agents had been watching alien civilizations for decades, learning their languages, studying their technology, and assessing their threat levels. Ships disguised as asteroids or space debris monitored alien trade routes and military movements. The Valari First Contact had been carefully orchestrated. Human scouts had been tracking the Quantum Seeker for months, learning its mission and crew composition. When they finally revealed themselves, it was at the perfect time and place to appear like a natural discovery. The Valari data should help us improve our warp efficiency by at least 15%, Dr. Carter continued. But more importantly, we now understand their defensive capabilities. Our stealth technology is still superior. Brooks walked to the main viewport, which showed the construction of humanity's newest secret project. The massive shipyard facility was building vessels that combined the best of human and alien technology. These ships would be humanity's ace in the hole if they were ever discovered. How long before the Pioneer team completes their mission? She asked. Dr. Morrison estimates another 2 weeks, Chen replied. They want to gather as much information as possible without arousing suspicion. The plan was working perfectly. The Valari believed they were teaching primitive humans about advanced technology. In reality, they were providing Earth with detailed intelligence about one of the galaxy's major powers. Meanwhile, in a research lab deep inside Deep Horizon Station, Dr. Greg Williams was analyzing the Valari warp core data with growing excitement. The alien technology used principles that human scientists had theorized but never tested. Look at this, he said to his colleague, Dr. Linda Foster. They're using harmonic resonance to create standing waves in the quantum field. We've been brute forcing our way through space-time when we could be riding natural frequencies. Foster examined the data on her own screen. But their method requires those specific crystals. We don't have access to their materials. We don't need them, Williams replied. We can synthesize the same harmonic frequencies using our quantum field generators. It will be more efficient and easier to maintain. This was typical of human innovation. When faced with alien technology, they didn't just copy it, they improved it. Human engineers had always excelled at finding better ways to accomplish the same goals. Back on the Quantum Seeker, the Valari crew was completely unaware that they were being studied by one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. They continued to treat the humans as curious but harmless primitives. Dr. Morrison was in the ship's laboratory, supposedly analyzing nebula gas samples with Dr. Syra. In reality, she was using the opportunity to examine Valari biotechnology and medical equipment. Your scanners are remarkable, Morrison said, watching a Valari medical device analyze a gas sample at the molecular level. The resolution is incredible. Standard equipment, Syra replied casually. We've had molecular scanners for over 2,000 years. Morrison nodded and made notes on her tablet. What she was actually doing was comparing Valari medical technology to human advancements. She was pleased to discover that human nanomedicine was actually more sophisticated than anything the Valari had developed. Engineer Bradley was in another section of the ship, examining their manufacturing equipment with a Valari technician named Corv. The alien machines could assemble complex components from raw materials using programmable molecular assemblers. How long does it take to build a warp core crystal? Bradley asked innocently. About 6 months for a standard core, Corv replied. The crystal matrix has to be grown very slowly to maintain proper quantum alignment. Bradley whistled in apparent amazement. Human manufacturing could produce equivalent components in a matter of days using advanced quantum forging techniques. But he maintained his facade of technological ignorance. Captain Turner was on the bridge discussing navigation with Commander Zenth. The conversation was providing valuable intelligence about Valari space routes and military deployments. Your empire controls how many star systems? Turner asked. Nearly 3,000 inhabited worlds, Zenth said proudly. We've brought peace and order to an entire spiral arm of the galaxy. Turner made appropriate sounds of awe while memorizing every detail for his report to Earth Command. The Valari Empire was larger than human intelligence had estimated, but they appeared to be spread thin across their territory. How do you maintain control over such a vast area? Turner asked. Careful. Administration and superior technology, Zenth replied. Most civilizations recognize the benefits of Valari guidance. Those that don't, well, they learn eventually. The conversation revealed useful information about Valari military doctrine and expansion policies. Turner filed it all away for later. Analysis by human strategists. As the days passed, the humans continued their intelligence gathering while maintaining their cover as primitive but eager students. Every conversation, every observation, and every scanner reading was contributing to humanity's growing understanding of galactic politics and technology. The Valari crew remained completely convinced of their own superiority. They had no idea that the primitive humans were actually one of the most technologically advanced species in the galaxy, hidden behind a carefully maintained facade of innocence and wonder. The third phase of humanity's plan was proceeding flawlessly. 2 weeks into their stay aboard the Quantum Seeker, the humans had impressed the Valari crew with their curiosity and respect for alien technology. Commander Zenth decided it was time for a more elaborate demonstration of Valari superiority. I have a proposal, Zenth announced during the morning briefing. Our ship needs a backup warp core for the return journey. Instead of waiting for one to be shipped from our homeworlds, we will build one here using raw materials from the nebula. Dr. Morrison looked fascinated. You can build a warp core from scratch? That must be incredibly complex. Indeed, Zenth replied with pride. It typically takes our best engineers several weeks using specialized facilities. But I believe it would be educational for your people to observe the process. Engineer Bradley leaned forward with obvious interest. Would it be possible for us to try building our own version, just as a learning exercise, of course? We know we couldn't actually make it work. The Valari crew exchanged amused glances. The idea of primitive humans attempting to construct warp drive technology was almost comical, but it could provide an entertaining demonstration of the vast gap between their civilizations. Why not? Zenth said with a gentle smile. It will be instructive for you to see how difficult our technology really is. Perhaps it will help your people understand what they need to achieve before joining galactic civilization. What the Valari did not know was that this moment had been carefully planned. For weeks, the human team had been in constant communication with Earth through their hidden quantum transmitters. The greatest minds on Earth and in the secret colonies had been analyzing Valari technology and preparing for this opportunity. In the ship's secondary workshop, the Valari began their construction project. Master Engineer Irix supervised a team of technicians as they assembled the complex components of a warp core. The process was methodical and precise, requiring exact tolerances and perfect timing. The humans watched with apparent wonder as exotic materials were shaped and assembled. Viridium support structures were grown using molecular foundries. Crystal matrices were carefully aligned using harmonic resonance fields. Energy conduits were woven through the structure like delicate artwork. The crystal alignment is critical, Irix explained to Bradley. Even the smallest error will cause resonance cascade failure. The harmonics must be perfect. Bradley nodded seriously and took notes on his tablet. What he was actually doing was recording every detail of the construction process and transmitting it to Earth in real time. Meanwhile, in a workshop on the other side of the ship, the humans began their own project. Bradley had requested basic materials and tools, claiming he wanted to attempt a crude copy of Valari technology. This is hopeless, Bradley said loudly enough for nearby Valari to hear. Look at this mess, we don't even have the right materials. Dr. Morrison joined him in the human workshop, along with Captain Turner. To any observer, they appeared to be struggling with technology far beyond their understanding, but appearances were deceiving. The workshop had been quietly modified with hidden equipment beamed over from the Pioneer. Advanced fabrication devices were concealed inside seemingly primitive tool cases. Quantum processors disguised as simple tablets were running complex calculations. Phase 1 is ready, Morrison whispered, too quietly for Valari hearing to detect. Earth Command has approved the hybrid design. The human team was not actually trying to copy Valari technology. They were building something far more sophisticated. A hybrid warp core that combined the best features of both human and alien engineering. Bradley worked with components that looked crude, but were actually made from advanced materials synthesized in the Pioneer's hidden fabrication bays. The crystal matrix appeared rough and unfinished, but was actually grown using quantum forging, techniques that surpassed anything in Valari technology. Dr. Chen is monitoring from Deep Horizon, Turner reported quietly. She says our quantum field alignment is optimal. Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Carter and her team were providing real-time support for the construction project. Every measurement was analyzed, every component was optimized, and every assembly step was guided by humanity's most advanced engineering knowledge. The Valari continued their own construction, unaware that they were being surpassed in the workshop next door. Master Engineer Irix was actually proud of his primitive students' enthusiasm, even though he expected their project to fail spectacularly. "How are your humans progressing?" Commander Zenth asked during one of his inspection visits. Rix chuckled softly. "About as well as expected. Their crystal matrix looks like something a child would build. The harmonic frequencies are completely wrong, but they seem to be enjoying themselves." Zenth nodded approvingly. "Good. Let them learn from their mistakes. It will make them appreciate our achievements even more." Days passed as both teams worked on their warp cores. The Valari construction proceeded smoothly. Following procedures refined over millennia, the human project appeared to be a series of barely controlled disasters. "I think we burned out another power coupling," Bradley announced loudly after creating a shower of sparks from his work area. "Maybe we should give up," Dr. Morrison said with apparent frustration. "This is clearly beyond our capabilities." The Valari crew felt sorry for the struggling humans but admired their determination. Several alien engineers offered helpful advice, not realizing they were actually providing intelligence about Valari, technology to one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. In reality, the human construction was proceeding perfectly. Their hybrid warp core used human zero-point energy manipulation combined with Valari harmonic resonance techniques. The result was a drive system that was more efficient and powerful than either technology alone. "Quantum field generators are online," Bradley reported quietly to his team. "Energy efficiency is 30% above Valari specifications. Field stability is perfect," Morrison added. "No fluctuations detected." The human warp core was not only functional, but superior to the alien original. It used less exotic matter, generated more power, and maintained better field coherence. Most importantly, it could be manufactured using materials and techniques available to human industry. On the final day of construction, both teams prepared to test their warp cores. The Valari version was a perfect example of their technology. Beautiful, elegant, and precisely engineered according to centuries of tradition. The human version looked rough and improvised, held together with what appeared to be spare parts and desperate engineering. But hidden beneath its crude exterior was technology that represented the cutting edge of human innovation. "We should test ours first," Irix suggested. "Then you can see how it should be done properly." The Valari warp core powered up smoothly, its crystals glowing with steady harmonic frequencies. Energy readings were exactly within normal parameters. The field geometry was textbook perfect. "Excellent work," Commander Zenth said approvingly. "A standard Valari warp core, built to specifications." Now it was the humans' turn. Bradley activated their core with apparent nervousness, expecting it to fail or at best produce a weak imitation of Valari technology. Instead, the human warp core came online with power readings that made the Valari instruments redline. The energy output was 30% higher than their own core, while using significantly less exotic matter. The harmonic frequencies were not just stable, they were more refined and efficient than anything in Valari databases. The Valari crew stared at their instruments in stunned silence. This was impossible. The primitive humans had not only built a functional warp core but had somehow improved upon Valari technology. "How?" Commander Zenth began, then stopped. His worldview was crumbling as he watched human technology outperform the pride of Valari engineering. Dr. Morrison stepped forward with a gentle smile. It was time to drop the facade. "Commander," she said calmly, "I think we need to have a more honest conversation." The silence in the workshop stretched for long moments as the Valari crew stared at the impossible readings from the human warp core. The energy output was beyond anything they had seen, and the field stability was perfect, more than perfect. It was optimized in ways their own technology could not achieve. Commander Zenth felt his understanding of the universe shift beneath his feet. "This cannot be correct," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your species lacks the knowledge to build such devices." Dr. Morrison exchanged glances with Bradley and Turner, then made a decision that would change everything. She walked to her equipment case and pressed a hidden switch. The crude exterior panels fell away, revealing sophisticated technology that gleamed with advanced materials and elegant engineering. "Actually, Commander," she said calmly, "we've had warp drive technology for over 50 years. The Valari crew stepped back in shock as the truth became clear. The primitive monitoring equipment transformed before their eyes into devices that were clearly more advanced than anything on their ship. The humans they had been patronizing were not students at all. Engineer Bradley dropped his facade of wonder and confusion. When he spoke again, his voice carried the confidence of someone who understood exactly what he was doing. "Your harmonic resonance approach is interesting," he said, "but we found that combining it with zero-point energy manipulation increases efficiency by 37%, while reducing exotic matter requirements by half." Master Engineer Erix stared at the human warp core with growing comprehension. You were not learning from us. You were studying us." Captain Turner nodded respectfully. "The entire first contact scenario was an intelligence operation. We needed to assess Valari capabilities and intentions without revealing our own technological level." Commander Zenth felt anger rising in his chest. "You deceived us. You made fools of us." "We protected ourselves," Dr. Morrison replied gently. "The galaxy is dangerous for emerging species. We learned early that appearing weak while growing strong gives us the best chance of survival." She activated her communication device, and the workshop filled with holographic displays showing star maps, colony worlds, and fleet positions. The Valari crew watched in amazement as the true scope of human expansion was revealed. "We currently maintain colonies in 17 star systems," Turner explained. "Our ships travel through hidden warp routes that leave no detectable signatures. We've been observing alien civilizations throughout this region for decades." The star map showed human settlements scattered across hundreds of light years, connected by a network of secret pathways. Mining stations, research facilities, and entire worlds populated by millions of humans who officially did not exist. "The Pioneer is not our only ship," Dr. Morrison continued. "We maintain a significant fleet, though most of it remains hidden. Our technology allows us to appear invisible to conventional sensors." As if summoned by her words, the space around the quantum seeker shimmered and 3 human vessels appeared from nowhere. They were sleek and powerful, clearly built with technology that matched or exceeded Valari capabilities. "Stealth ships," Bradley explained. "They've been escorting us since the beginning of our mission. We never travel alone in unknown space." "Commander," Zenth looked at the display showing human territory and felt a mixture of emotions. Anger at being deceived, admiration for human cunning, and fear of what this revelation meant for the Valari Empire. "Why reveal yourselves now?" he asked. "Because the intelligence gathering phase is complete," Turner replied. "We have learned what we needed to know about Valari technology and culture. Now we must decide whether our species can coexist as equals or if we must remain hidden enemies." Dr. Morrison stepped forward with a proposal that would determine the future relationship between their civilizations. "We could continue this deception indefinitely. Our stealth technology is superior to your sensors. You would never find our hidden colonies or suspect our true capabilities. But," she continued, "we believe cooperation would benefit both our species. Human innovation combined with Valari experience could advance both our civilizations significantly." She gestured to the hybrid warp core still humming with efficient power. This is an example of what we can achieve together. Your harmonic resonance techniques improved our field stability. Our zero-point manipulation increased your power efficiency. The Volari crew was struggling to process the magnitude of their misconceptions. For weeks they had been teaching primitives only to discover they were being studied by technological equals. "How many other species have you encountered?" Syra asked quietly. 14 civilizations in this region, Morrison replied. "We've been gathering intelligence on all major powers to assess potential threats and allies." Zenth realized that humanity represented a completely new factor in galactic politics. A hidden civilization with advanced technology and unknown intentions could shift the balance of power throughout the region. "What do you want from the Volari Empire?" he asked. "Honest cooperation," Turner answered. "We're willing to share some of our technological innovations in exchange for cultural knowledge and diplomatic relations. But this must be in partnership between equals, not a teacher-student relationship." Dr. Morrison activated another hologram showing a human colony world. Cities spread across continents under protective domes with orbital stations and manufacturing facilities orbiting overhead. "This is New Geneva, one of our larger settlements," she explained. "We would be honored to host a Volari delegation there. You could see what humanity has achieved and decide whether our civilizations can work together." The offer hung in the air as the Volari crew considered their options. They could report this discovery to their government and recommend hostile action against the hidden human empire, or they could accept humanity's offer of partnership and help forge a new alliance. Commander Zenth looked around at his crew, seeing uncertainty and concern in their faces. Everything they thought they knew about this region of space had changed in a matter of minutes. "Your deception was thorough," he admitted. "We believed completely that humans were a primitive species barely capable of interplanetary travel. The deception was necessary," Morrison replied. "History shows that advanced civilizations often subjugate or destroy emerging species. We chose to grow strong in secret rather than risk extinction through premature contact." Bradley gestured to the hybrid warp core. "But we also chose to learn. Your technology taught us new approaches to problems we'd been working on for decades. Cooperation produced better results than either of us could achieve alone." Master Engineer Irix examined the human warp core more closely, his professional interest overcoming his shock. "The quantum field manipulation is extraordinary. How did you achieve such precise control?" "Centuries of theoretical work followed by decades of practical experimentation," Bradley replied. "We approached the problem from a different angle than your people did, but the underlying physics are the same." As the technical discussion continued, Commander Zenth made his decision. The humans had demonstrated both their capability and their restraint. They could have remained hidden or revealed themselves as conquerors. Instead, they offered partnership. "I will recommend to my government that we accept your proposal," he said formally. "A delegation to your colony world could benefit both our species." Dr. Morrison smiled with genuine relief. "Thank you, Commander. I believe this could be the beginning of a productive relationship between our peoples." Captain Turner stepped forward with additional information. "There is one more thing you should know. The Zephyrian Republic has been expanding aggressively in this region. Our intelligence suggests they may be planning military action against several smaller civilizations." He activated a star map showing Zephyrian fleet movements and territorial claims. "We believe the Volari Empire may be one of their targets. A human-Volari alliance could provide mutual defense against this threat." Zenth studied the intelligence data with growing concern. The Zephyrians had been a minor power when he last reviewed galactic politics, but the human information showed a massive military buildup. "You would share this intelligence with us?" he asked. "Among allies, information should flow freely," Turner replied. "We've been monitoring Zephyrian activities for years. Their expansion pattern suggests they view both our species as potential threats to their dominance. The revelation that humanity possessed detailed intelligence on multiple alien civilizations further demonstrated their sophistication. These were not primitive explorers stumbling through space. but experienced observers who understood galactic politics better than most established powers. As the two crews began planning for future cooperation, the Quantum Seeker received a priority communication from Valari Space. Admiral Korth's image appeared on the main screen, his expression serious. "Commander Zenth, we have received disturbing reports about Zephyrian fleet movements. How soon can you return with your survey data?" Zenth looked at his human guests, then made a decision that would reshape history. "Admiral, I believe we have discovered something more important than survey data. I recommend sending a diplomatic team to my coordinates immediately." The communication ended, and Zenth turned to the humans. "It seems your timing was perfect.